Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the fascinating, highly unconventional, and honestly hotly debated 1989 manifesto by László Polgár on exactly how to raise a genius. If you've ever wondered what separates the truly extraordinary minds from the rest of us, well, Polgár's work claims to have the exact blueprint. It's not just your average parenting manual, it's a really profound argument about human potential itself. Now, the core premise of this playbook completely shatters our traditional assumptions about talent. I mean, most of us just kind of assume a genius is someone who won the genetic lottery, right? But Polgár argued fiercely that genius is nurtured, not innate. He firmly believed that every single healthy baby is born as a potential genius. Achieving that greatness, though, that depends entirely on circumstances, education, and the absolute, unwavering commitment of the parents to foster it. But there is a serious ticking clock to this potential. Just look at the stark drop-off in Polgár's framework. At age 1, a child's capacity for genius is sitting at a massive 80%. But by year 5, it plummets to 50%. And if you wait until they're 20, that potential drops to a mere 5%. So time is literally of the essence here. To really drive this urgency home, Polgár echoes this ancient wisdom from King Solomon. It highlights a pretty stark reality in his methodology. If parents miss out on ingraining the right habits and structured learning at that crucial early stage, well, that genius potential might just be lost for life. It's basically about setting the track before the train starts moving way too fast. So, here's our structured playbook for today. We're going to cover the ticking genius clock, the 3 core rules, fostering confidence, proof in practice, and finally addressing the skeptics. Let's get into it. Section 1. The ticking genius clock. The urgency of early education. Polgár identified the ages of 3 to 6 as the absolute most vital period for a child's development. Why? Well, it comes down to a crucial biological factor, brain plasticity. During this specific window, a child's mind is incredibly malleable. It easily changes and reorganizes itself based on new stimuli. Because of this heightened plasticity, kids are naturally primed to adapt to serious, specialized learning way earlier than traditional education systems actually believe. Section 2, the 3 core rules, the Polgár method. So to actually harness that brain plasticity, Polgár utilized a very specific framework. These are his 3 foundational pillars. First, as we just saw, you absolutely must start early. Second, you have to specialize, meaning parents need to identify a specific field of interest for the child by age 3 or 4. And third, honestly, this might be the most important one, you must completely unify work with play. Now let's talk about that specialization step for a second, because it is intense. To truly master a field, Polgár controversially recommended that young children spend an astonishing 5 to 6 hours a day studying their single chosen subject. That requires incredible dedication, which is exactly why he actually chose to homeschool his own daughters, focusing their intense daily study entirely on the game of chess. So how on earth do you get a little kid to study for 5 hours without making them totally miserable? That brings us to his 3rd rule. Think about the traditional approach. If you've ever told a kid to stop playing and get to work, Polgár would argue you're making a massive mistake. By doing that, you're accidentally teaching them that work is this alien, negative thing. Instead, Polgár insists that acquiring information and solving problems should be just as fun as a game. Work and play have to be completely unified so the child genuinely sees deep learning as an enjoyable, lifelong hobby. Section 3, fostering confidence and skill, the ideal learning environment. To build the kind of psychological environment a child needs to thrive over such a rigorous regimen, you have to ensure they experience more wins than losses. Think about it like a beginner's basketball league. If you throw a total novice into a highly competitive league with older, better players, they're going to constantly lose, and their self-esteem will just shatter. But if you match them with their current abilities, they get frequent early success. And that success, that builds the deep confidence they'll eventually need to tackle much higher levels of competition. And here's an interesting caveat. Regardless of whether your child specializes in math or music or painting, Polgár insisted that every single child should learn these 2 specific foundational skills: chess and a foreign language. He didn't just view these as regular subjects. He saw them as absolute essential tools to help a child master the art of gaining knowledge itself. They literally teach the brain how to learn, how to strategize, and how to process complex systems. Section 4. Proof in practice. History's nurtured geniuses. Now, you might be wondering if this intense approach actually works outside of pure theory. Well, history is absolutely packed with extraordinary individuals whose parents deliberately started their rigorous, specialized training during that critical early childhood window. Mozart was on the piano by age 4. The brilliant mathematician John von Neumann solving advanced equations by age 6. Picasso started his informal training at 5. And over in sports, the Williams sisters had rackets in their hands by age 4. This data really reinforces Polgar's belief that an intentional, early start provides a massive, nearly insurmountable advantage. And hey, we don't even have to look just at history books. Polgar's own daughters are literal living proof of his playbook. Despite their super intense daily specialization in chess, which, by the way, made them world champions, they were far from isolated chess robots. They actually grew up to speak fluently in up to 8 languages. They were exceptional athletes. One of them, Sophia, even became a painter. They turned out to be incredibly well-rounded, fascinating individuals, completely debunking the myth that intense early specialization somehow limits a child's worldly potential. Section 5. Addressing the skeptics, debunking the myths. Of course, an approach this extreme is going to naturally invite some heavy criticism. The big question Polgar faced all the time was, if the formula's right here, why isn't everyone doing it? The primary fear from critics is that hyper-specializing a kid at age 3 or 4 is going to make them entirely one-dimensional. Parents worry that focusing so intensely on a single subject means the child will miss out on well-rounded life experiences and general knowledge. But Polgar brilliantly countered this fear with a great analogy, using one stick to pluck many fruits. He explained that mastering one really difficult subject, like math for instance, builds an incredible, deeply ingrained discipline. And that high-level discipline, it easily transfers over to other subjects later, like biology or literature. The child ends up becoming far more proficient across the board than a generalist who just dabbles in everything but never builds true mastery or focus in any one thing. And then, naturally, there's the emotional concern. Critics just assume these children must be overworked, overly pressured, and completely miserable. But Polgar was quick to point out that his daughters were profoundly joyful and constantly energized. And why is that? It goes right back to his third rule. Because their structured learning was blended so seamlessly with play, they never actually felt like they were being forced to work. They felt like they were just spending hours doing their favorite hobby. Ultimately, society is super quick to label a genius as weird or abnormal, and Polgar was totally honest about it. He admitted that yes, raising a genius means raising someone who isn't average, but historical greatness inherently requires stepping away from the norm. Alexander the Great and Thomas Edison definitely weren't ordinary. To really stand out, one must embrace being profoundly different. So the Polgar method leaves us all with one final incredibly provocative question as we look at our own potential and the potential of the next generation. Are you brave enough to dare to be different?